over the past day, Ukrainian Air Force launched 9 strikes on Russian personnel clusters. Personnel clusters are barracks, gathering areas, sleeping areas. Ukrainian Air Force also launched 3 strikes on Russian air defense missile system locations and 3 more strikes on other important targets. These could be munition depots, logistic warehouses, convoys. The point is, Ukrainian Air Force is incredibly active lately. The artillery is bombarding targets deep inside Russian-held territory, destroying barracks, munition depots. It feels like Ukraine is preparing for something, and they are. Before we look at what Ukraine is preparing for, here is a photo from Melitopol to the coast of the Azov Sea. This comes from Dmitry, the military blogger, and he calls them cope cones. Of course, these are dragon's teeth and they are anti-armor. They are effective because you cannot drive over them with a tank. It doesn't matter which tank it is, you have to destroy them or remove them first. But for the fact that they are deep inside Russian-held territory from Melitopol to the Azov Sea, that shows that Russians are waiting for something. What are they waiting for? Well, I'm glad you asked. These next texts I'm going to show you also come from Dmitry, who got them from anonymous Wagner officer. And I'll read the text for you. It's basically Russian military blogging. And this gives us an idea of what they're waiting for, what they're seeing, how they think and what they're afraid of. What is happening at the front really cannot but suggest that by accumulating forces along the entire line of contact, that is the Mykolaiv, Kherson, Kryvyi Rih, Zaporozhye, Kharkiv directions, and in Donbass, the enemy, the Ukrainians, of course for the Russians, is preparing something like a revanche. From the beginning of February to the present day, the transfer of new brigades to the armed forces of Ukraine continues. Ukraine recently formulated 6 new assault brigades from volunteers. They have gathered an enormous force on the front lines into reserves. Now, this force is not deployed in Bakhmut or any active frontline zone. These are the reserves for the counter-offensive. Let's talk about numbers. There is talk of 3 armies. 1 army group, 3 different armies. There has not been such a concentration of Ukrainian force throughout this war anywhere. This is the biggest one. Ukraine is preparing for something huge, and the Wagner officer here is noticing it, of course. I'll continue the reading. And the facts are as follows. More and more details of the regrouping of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Zaporozhye sector and the transfer of new brigades assembled from former territorial defense and trained according to the new NATO standards for the Ukrainian army are becoming known. The enemy is also accumulating sabotage forces on the border with the Bryansk and Kursk regions, where not so long ago Ukrainian SOF and all kinds of mercenaries from enlightened Europe were seen. This suggests a direct parallel with the entry into the border region of the Bryansk and the Russian Volunteer Corps group, which happened on March 2nd. Unofficial Ukrainian channels on the front and on the reserve areas talk about formulating 3 armies. That is 3 times 6 brigades plus another extra 6 assault brigades that Ukraine started formulating 2 months ago. We're talking about 60 to 90,000 troops. But this is a bigger number than Russians have anywhere. They have the biggest reserves in Mariupol, that's about 30,000. Ukraine is massing 60. Right now it's Rasputitsa, the mud season. No armor can move freely right now. As soon as this is over in the southern and eastern Ukraine, which would be the beginning to the middle of April, we can expect a counter-offensive. I think it will be on its way by May.